Lin Ruoxi stood in the center of the magic school trial, holding a broken staff in her hand. The crystal at the top of the staff was so dim that it could hardly be seen. The air around her was filled with a burnt smell, and the first-class magic test that just ended made her palms feel a little numb. Her long hair was stuck to the magnitude by sweat, and the robes under her broken disciple robe were torn apart by the magical robe, and it looked like she was so terrified. She gasped heavily, staring at the ancient stone tablet surrounding the trial site. The stone tablet was a forbidden object on the test site. It was said to be a thing from hundreds of years ago, and it was engraved with runes that no one could understand. The rules of the college are that apprentices should not get close, let alone touch. But in the exam just now, Lin Ruoxi slipped down and hit her directly in order to avoid an out-of-control fireball technique. When her palm pressed against the cold surface of the stone tablet, a strange feeling swelled up like current, and a series of blurred runes suddenly flashed in her brain, as if someone was whispering in her ears, with a low and ancient voice, which made her look dirty. "Ruoxi, are you fucking me in a daze? The exam is over, come over tight." Away, the voice of the instructor Yun's voice came, bringing a little impatient. She stood at the exit of the trial floor. Her long blue robe looked particularly gentle under the sun, but her eyes were a little complicated, as if she was looking at something. Lin Ruoxi returned to her senses, quickly lowered her head to cover up her strangeness, and walked over with exhausted steps. Her heart beat very fast, and there was still the string of runes in her brain, as if they had been engraved in her memory and could not be removed. She knew she had committed a crime, and touching forbidden objects was a felony. She was punished for a slight crime, and she might be expelled from the college in serious cases. But she didn't expect that the real trouble was still behind. "You just bumped into the stone tablet, right?" Yun's voice lowered, his eyes as if he could see through her thoughts. Lin Ruoxi felt nervous and smiled reluctantly. "Guide, I didn't mean it. I'm fine, really." Yun didn't say anything, just looked at her quietly for a while, then sighed. "I hope you're saying it is true. Don't mention this to others. Go back and have a rest. There will be an advanced exam tomorrow." Lin Ruoxi pointed his head and turned away, and when he turned around, he felt Yun's gaze stabbing her like a knife. She walked back to the dormitory with her head low, and her brain was full of runes on the way. They were like life, constantly reorganizing in her brain, spelling out some broken fragments, like the opening of a certain spell. The more she thought about it, the more uneasy she became, and she always felt that something bad was about to happen. When she returned to the dormitory, she just pushed the door open and heard a low sound of sludge outside the window. The ground of the entire college shook slightly, as if something had exploded. She was shocked in her heart and ran to the window and looked out. Far away, a group of black smoke rose in the direction of the test site, and the magical junction in the sky seemed to have been torn apart, and the blue light curtain kept flashing, making a harsh buzzing sound. "What's going on?" Lin Ruoxi murmured, her fingers unconsciously clenching the window frame. She suddenly realized that this might have something to do with her touching the stone tablet. What taboos did those runes really come up with? Without waiting for her to think about it, the door of the dormitory was suddenly kicked open and a figure in a black robe rushed in. The man was wearing a hood, covered with a black cloth on his face, revealing only a pair of cold eyes. As soon as he came in, he headed straight for Lin Ruoxi, and the staff in his hand had already lit up a dark red light. "Are you Lin Ruoxi?" The man's voice was low, with an unquestionable sense of pressure. "Take the things you see, otherwise you wouldn't be able to get out of this room today." Lin Ruoxi was surprised to take a step back, and her brain was blank. She didn't know what the other party was saying, but the killing made her understand that this person was not here to joke. I don't know anything." "You're looking for a wrong person," she replied in a daze, her hand quietly touching the staff beside the bed. "Small talk." The man in black robe snorted coldly, and a red light rushed towards her with a blow of his staff. Lin Ruoxi instinctively raised his staff and rushed to summon a protective barrier, but her magic was already left. When the barrier was formed, it was shattered by the red light. The whole person was shocked and hit the wall, which made her almost scream. At this moment, the window was suddenly smashed and a long figure flipped in from outside. The man was wearing a black cloak, with a clear scar on his face, and his eyes were as cold as ice. As soon as he came in, he raised his hand and a shadow blew out of his palm, directly snatching the man in the black robe, and dragging the other party's staff to the side. Looking for death? The newcomer's voice was low and dangerous, with a slight mockery. He turned his head and looked at Lin Ruoxi, with a complicated feeling flashing in his eyes. Are you that stupid little devil? Lin Ruoxi hasn't returned to her senses yet, and her brain is full of questions. Who is this person? Why would he help her? But she didn't have time to think about it because the man in black had already swept away the shadow's beam, and with a roar, another red light shot towards her. Do not! The scared man shouted softly, his figure flashed, and directly pressed in front of her. The shadow condensed into a black wall around him, and attacked him. Taking advantage of this empty file, he grabbed Lin Ruoxi's wrist and said, Don't be stunned, follow me. Lin Ruoxi was dragged and jumped out of the broken window without reacting. The wind outside made her face hurt, the boundary of the college had completely collapsed, and the energy crystals floating in the sky fell, smashing towards the ground like a meteor. The screams of the disciples from far away, and the magical explosion of the geese have become a group of people. Who are you? Why help me? Lin Ruoxi finally couldn't help asking, and there was a trembling sound. She tried to take the other party's hand, but the man was shocking and didn't give her any chance. Call me Ye Xiao. The man didn't look back and said coldly, As for why you help you, don't mislead. I just don't want to let the things in your hands fall into other people's hands. Things? What's the matter? Lin Ruoxi was confused. She really didn't know what these people were talking about. Ye Xiao stopped walking and looked at her, with a hint of impatientness in his eyes. Don't be stupid. You touched the stone tablet, and the runes you saw were fragments of taboo spells. The whole Ethria's strength was looking for you. Do you think you could still go back to your normal days? Lin Ruoxi's heart sank, and the runes in the sea of brain appeared again, as if they had sealed the night sky. She bit her lips tightly and her voice lowered. I don't know what that is, I just touched it accidentally. Do you know or not, you are already in trouble now. Ye Xiao sneered and continued to drag her forward. You have to follow me, wait for those people to get caught and drain your memory, and choose it yourself. Lin Ruoxi couldn't resist because she knew what Ye Xiao said might be true. Just now, the murder of the man in black robe was not fake, and it was no coincidence that the collapse of the school's boundary was not a coincidence. She looked down at her palm, and there was still a cold touch when she touched the stone tablet, and her heart was in a mess. They walked through the back door of the college and arrived at a ruined magical experiment area. This place has long been blocked, surrounded by broken buildings and magic waves. Ye Ban took her into a half-collapsed laboratory and finally opened her hand. Say, what did you see? Ye Xiao leaned against the wall, took out a black crystal and played with it, his eyes kept locking on her. Lin Ruoxi hesitated for a moment, and said in a fair manner, just a string of runes, very vague, like a spell opening. I don't know what it is, nor how to use it. Yeba narrowed his eyes, as if he had confirmed something. He was silent for a while, and then said in a low voice, The stone tablet is a fragment of the forbidden spell tower. The mantra sealed inside can destroy the entire Ethria. You can understand it and show that you have the talent to break the forbidden spell. If this is spread, no magic meeting or the black market guy will let you go. Lin Ruoxi was shocked when she heard it. She never thought she would get into such a big deal. She is just an ordinary magic disciple, and her biggest dream is to get her lost father through the exam, and then make her family no longer looked down upon. But now, everything is out of reach. Then what should I do? Her voice was helpless, and she looked at Ye Xiao's eyes with a little more help. Ye Xiao snorted coldly and put away the crystal stone. If you want to survive, you have to cooperate with me. I know where the forbidden spell tower is, and I know how to crack those runes. But I need your talent to help me complete one thing. What's the matter? Lin Ruoxi asked vigilantly. Find the ultimate mantra and destroy it. Yi Jian's language was calm, but there was a complex emotion flashing in his eyes, as if there was something unknown to him. Lin Ruoxi was stunned for a moment, her brain was full of doubts. What is the ultimate mantra? Why destroy it? Who exactly is this nightclub, and why do you know so much? But she didn't have time to ask because there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside the laboratory and a low spell chanting. Hear you. Yi Jian's face darkened, and his hands were already pressed on his staff. It seems that you are more troubled than I thought. Lin Ruoxi's heart beats faster and she held the staff in her hand tightly. Although she knew that her magic was almost exhausted, she didn't want to sit and wait. The sound of footsteps outside the door was getting closer and closer, and there was a dangerous breath in the air. She knew that the escape had just begun. Apart from the shadow, a short and fat figure walked out of the shadow, with golden teeth flashing cold light under the dim light. He grinned, and there was a slut in his voice. Ye, knight, are you hiding here with a little girl? I'm here to help, of course, the price needs to be discussed. Yeba's eyes turned cold, and he obviously didn't catch a cold for this person. Iron teeth, talk less, talk serious. Zia smiled and his eyes turned to Lin Ruoxi, as if he had seen something worthwhile. I heard that this little girl can break the forbidden spell. This is a big business. I have a way to help you avoid the pursuit of the Congress, but you have to give it a little sweet first. Lin Ruoxi felt nervous. This iron teeth looked like she was not a good person at first glance, but she had no choice now. She glanced at Yi Jian and tried to see something from his face, but Yi Jian just stood coldly, as if she had been politely accustomed to this kind of scene. Where are the conditions? Yi Ban finally opened his mouth, and there was no temperature in his voice. Zia rubbed his hands and smiled even more obscenely. Just hand over the runes in her brain, I guarantee you can leave this ghost place safely. Lin Ruoxi felt cold when she heard this. She subconsciously took a step back and held the staff tightly. She knew that no matter Yeba or Maya, she was not a completely trustworthy person. But she knew even more that she had no choice at all now. The sound of the steps outside the door is getting closer and closer, and the magic waves in the air are getting stronger and stronger. Lin Ruoxi took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. No matter what happens next, she must live because she still has an unfinished goal to find her father and reveal the secrets of the family. Yi Zhang turned around and looked at her, with a meaningful light in her eyes. He said in a low voice, Are you ready? Next, there is no time for you to hesitate. Lin Ruoxi gritted her teeth and clicked on the head. She didn't know where this road would lead, but she knew that from this moment on, her life had changed drastically. Lin Ruoxi's heart beats like a drum beat, and his hand holding the staff was shaking slightly. She stood in the broken experiment room, with a stream of Chen's magic scent in the air, and there was a faint blue light in the cracks of the stone slab under her feet. The sound of footsteps outside the door was getting closer, like a group of dogs approaching the gag, and the slutty smile made her stomach swell. She glanced at Yi Jian. Although this guy was cold, he had at least saved her life. In contrast, Zia's small eyes were full of naked greed, which made her instinctively feel dangerous. Why, have you considered it? Zia grinned, her mouth full of gold teeth flashed cold light under the dim light. I can't wait too long, and the helping person outside is not merciful. Yi Jian snorted coldly, and his body moved slightly. The black crystal stone in his hand radiated a wave of shadows, as if he was ready to move at any time. Jia, you know that I never like being threatened. What's in her brain? You can't get in touch with me. The smile on Zia's face froze, but soon returned to the smooth look and slim face, and he put his hands on. Don't be so angry, Yi Jian, we are always in love. I just wanted to help, but this girl is now in a mess. The people who meet, the black market, and even the old monsters hiding in the dark are all aimed at her. Can you protect her alone? Lin Ruoxi felt a sank in her heart. She knew that although the iron teeth were harsh, she was not wrong. From the moment she touched the stone tablet, she felt like she had poked a bee, and she came to the door one by one. She looked down at her palms, and the runes in her brain began to appear again, walking around her consciousness as if she was alive, making her head burst into tears. I don't need you to make decisions for me. She finally couldn't help but open her mouth. Although her voice was small, she was stubborn. I don't know what those runes are, nor do I want to know. I just want to live and find my father. If you really want to help me, don't trade me as goods. Ye Xiao turned around and looked at her, and there was a flash of surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect that this weak-looking little girl would suddenly feel hard. The corners of his mouth slightly slapped, revealing a smile that was almost invisible. It's a bit meaningful. However, living is not that simple. Zia laughed and clapped his hands. Yeah, my little girl is quite tempered. Okay, since you said that, I won't force you. However, I have to remind you that the helpers outside will not tell you. What they want is the things in your brain, regardless of whether you are dead or alive. As the voice fell, the door of the experiment room was suddenly shaken by a powerful magic power, and wood chips and stone blocks were filled with 4 cushions, and several men in black robe rushed in from the door. The top of their staff was flashing with the ape-red light, and the air was filled with a heavy sense of pressure. The man in black robe in the head voiced a low voice, as if he was slamming out from his throat, Yeba, hand over that girl, otherwise you don't want to leave today. Lin Ruoxi was scared to take a step back, and the fear in her heart rushed up like a wave. Her magic power is almost exhausted, and even the most basic protection zone cannot be damaged. Now it is a complete drag. Yi Jian seemed to have expected this scene, and took a step forward without fear, flipped his palm, and the shadow condensed into a black wall beside him, directly holding onto the opponent's first wave of magic attacks. If you want to move her, please follow me first. Yi Jian's voice was as cold as ice, and the shadows were swept around him, as if life was about toward the men in black robes. The experiment room is always in a group, and the explosion of magic collisions is not absolutely loud, and gravel and dust are dancing in the sky. When the Iron Teeth saw it, the clan shook to the side, and he still muttered, Hey, Ye Xiao, you guys are still so desperate. I won't play with you, there will be a time in the future. As he said, he took out a piece of green crystal from it and threw it on the ground. The whole person was instantly wrapped in a group of smoke, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. This guy. Lin Ruoxi gritted her teeth and lowered her voice, and her evil at Iron Teeth deepened a little. But she didn't have time to think about it because Yi Jian had been attacked by 3 men in black robe. Although his shadow magic was powerful, there were many people on the other side and they cooperated very well. Several red lights hit his black wall at the same time, tearing a hole open. Are you still fucking me in a daze? Run! Yi Xiao resisted the attack and shouted at her. He was already sweating on his head, and it seemed that this battle was not easy for him. Lin Ruoxi bit her lips tightly. Although she wanted to help, she knew that she would only drag her back legs after she stayed. She turned around and ran toward the back door of the experiment room. A piece of gravel fell under her foot and almost fell down, but she forced herself to get up and rushed out without looking back. The air outside was biting cold and there was no one on the streets of the test area. Only the explosion sound from the far distance college was still coming. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew that stopping would be like waiting for death. She ran away not long ago, and she heard a low hum from behind, followed by Yi Jian's voice, Don't stop, continue running. I will catch up with you. There was a little effort in his voice, and he was obviously injured. Lin Ruoxi felt nervous. Although she did not fully trust Yi Jian, at this moment, she still couldn't help but worry. She hesitated for a moment, but gritted her teeth and continued to run forward because she knew that all she could do now was not his burden. The end of the experiment area is a wasteland of magic power. This was once the site of magic experiments, but due to a large-scale magic leakage, the entire area was polluted and now it has become a forbidden area without anyone to ask for. When Lin Ruoxi ran into the wasteland, the ground under her feet became unusually soft, as if she was stepping on a swamp, and every step was unusually difficult. There was a pungent smell in the air, which made her dizzy. She knew that this was a sign of the exhaustion of magic. If you stayed in this place for too long, the wizard with the most magical power would be invaded. She bit her teeth tightly and walked forward with great force, but not long after, she heard a rapid sound of footsteps behind her. She was shocked and turned suddenly, and realized that Ye Bai had caught up with her. His black cloak was covered with dust, his face was white, and there was still a blood on the corner of his mouth. It seemed that the battle just now caused him to suffer unevenly. Are you okay? Lin Ruoxi couldn't help but ask, although she knew that this problem sounded quite stupid. Yi Jian snorted coldly and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I can't die. Those guys were left behind by me, but they will soon catch up. We have to find a place to hide. This wasteland is not a place to stay for a long time. Lin Ruoxi pointed at the head. Although she didn't know why Yi Ban protected her so conscientiously, at least now, they were people on the same boat. She followed Yi Jian and continued to walk forward. The two of them walked through a withered forest and finally found a hidden cave on the edge of the wasteland. The entrance of the cave was covered by vines, and it was pitch black inside, emitting a damp musty smell, but at least it could cover the wind and rain regularly. After entering the cave, Yi Jian sat down against the stone wall, took out a small bottle of blue medicine from it, and drank it on his head. His face was a little calmer, but his eyes were still sharp, as if he was guarding against something at any time. Lin Ruoxi sat opposite him, holding his knees with both hands, and asked in a low voice, "Who are those people? Why do you have to catch me?" Yi Jian was silent for a while before he spoke. They are the executors of the Magic Association, specializing in handling the trick. The stone tablet you touch is not an ordinary thing, it is part of the Forbidden Spell Tower, and the runes sealed in it are fragments of the ultimate spell. The Congress has been ignoring this for hundreds of years. They don't want anyone to know the truth, let alone anyone can crack those runes. The ultimate curse. Lin Ruoxi murmured again, and the runes in her brain began to appear again, making her eyebrows raise. What is that? Why is this important? Yi Zhang's eyes darkened, as if he had touched something that he didn't want to mention. He said in a low voice, "The ultimate curse is the foundation of Ethria and its source of destruction. It can revive the entire world, but the price is to erase everyone's memory and may even dry up the magic. You will be afraid that this power will fall into the hands of others, so they will kill you and will not let you live." Lin Ruoxi was shocked when she heard it. She never thought that she would fall into such a big thing. She is just an ordinary magic disciple, and she has not yet fully mastered the most basic magic. Now she has become a threat to the entire world. She looked down at her hands, with a weak voice in her voice. Then what should I do? I don't want to die, nor do I want others to get into trouble because of me. Yi Jian glanced at her, and there was a complex feeling in his eyes. He was silent for a moment before saying, "The only way is to find the Forbidden Spell Tower, break the ultimate spell, and then destroy it. Only in this way will you let go. Remove it?" Lin Ruoxi was stunned for a moment, and immediately knocked over, "But I don't know what those runes are. How can it be cracked? Moreover, I haven't heard where the Forbidden Spell Tower is." Yi Jian sneered and took out an old sheepskin paper from it with some blurry map lines on it. "This is the location of the Forbidden Spell Tower, only a few people know. I can take you there, but you have to answer and help me complete one thing." Lin Ruoxi looked at him vigilantly. "What's the matter?" Yi Jian's eyes became deeper, and his voice was as low as if suppressing something. "I need some of the power of the ultimate curse to complete my revenge. You don't need to know what it is, just help me get it." Lin Ruoxi felt nervous. Although Yi Ban saved her, she always felt that this guy had many secrets. Who is his target of revenge? Why use the ultimate mantra? She hesitated for a moment, but finally got to the point because she knew that she had no choice now. "Okay, I'll promise you." Her voice was light, but she had a desperate decision. "But you have to answer me and find my father's whereabouts. He was also studying the Forbidden Curse before he lost his mind. I believe he must know something." Yi Ban's eyes flashed a strange look, as if he had heard some familiar name, but he quickly covered it up and just said lightly, "Document." The cave fell into silence for a moment, and only the outside voice was heard. Lin Ruoxi leaned against the stone wall and formed a group of her brain. She didn't know where this road would lead, nor did she know whether Yi Bai was trustworthy, but she knew that she had no way back. From the moment she touched the stone tablet, her fate had been modified. After a while, Ye Xiao stood up and patted the dust on his body. "We have a rest, we have to go on a road. People who agree to the meeting will not give up the pursuit and kill them. If you stay here, you will only wait for death." Lin Ruoxi was slightly lit up. Although her legs were still softening, she stood up and followed Ye Xiao out of the cave. The magic wasteland outside was still dead silent, and the sky far away was covered by a gray fog, as if it was predicting that a greater storm was about to come. They followed the route on the map and headed towards the Forbidden Spell Tower, each step filled with unknowns and dangers. After about half a day, the two of them arrived at a broken town. This place was once the center of magic trade, but due to the influence of magic power exhaustion, it has long been abandoned, and the streets are filled with broken buildings and scattered energy crystal skeletons. Ye Xiao took her into a deserted hotel, ready to take a break and replenish some essentials. "There is a black market contact point here, we can find some food and medicine," Ye Xiao said in a low voice, his eyes swept around, as if he was guarding against something at any time. Lin Ruoxi pointed at the head, but she always felt uneasy. "This place is so quiet that it makes people creepy." She followed the night sky through several narrow alleys and finally came to a hidden basement. When I opened the door, a heavy smell of smoke came over the surface, and there were a few bad-looking guys sitting there, and the table was filled with all kinds of strange magic props. "Yay, night sky, what wind blows you?" A sound of sand came from the corner. Lin Ruoxi looked in the sound and found that it was the iron teeth that were talking. He was still in that obscene look, holding a rough smoke in his mouth, looking at them with a smile. Yeba's face darkened, and he was obviously not surprised by the appearance of iron teeth. "Stop talking, give me 2 servings of dry rice and a bottle of high-end medicine, and you will open it." Zia smiled and his eyes fell on Lin Ruoxi again. "Of course, but I have heard a lot about this. The discussion is quite good. Why don't we talk about it again?" Lin Ruoxi's heart tightened and his hand holding the staff tightened unconsciously. She knew that people like Hardwood only believed in interests and might sell them at any time. Ye Xiao seemed to have expected this scene a long time ago and said coldly, "Iron Teeth, you'd better think clearly, betray my next scene, you'll see it." Zia's smile froze, but soon returned to the smooth look and slapped, and said, "Just joke. We are friends, and we will prepare something for you right away. However, I have to remind you that the people who agreed to have already set up a boundary nearby. It's not that easy for you to come out of a town." Ye Xiao didn't say anything, but just glanced at Jia coldly, then turned to Lin Ruoxi and said, "Be prepared, we will leave tonight." Lin Ruoxi was a little bit. Although she didn't know what she would face next, she knew that the escape was not over. The air pressure in the basement was so suppressed that she couldn't breathe. She held the tight staff and had a little more concentration in her eyes. No matter what, she has to survive because she still has too many unsolved gangs waiting for her to unveil. Lin Ruoxi sat in a corner of the basement, holding the broken staff in her hand, and her eyes kept sweeping over the confrontation between Iron Teeth and Night Bars. The air in the basement was damp and cold, mixed with the smell of smoke and Chen's magic, which made her feel a little excited. She could feel that Chia's small eyes glanced at her from time to time, like looking at a valuable item, while Yibai stood on her side. Although her face was expressionless, the waves of shadows spreading around her made people dare not approach. The dry sprouts and medicines on the table were ready, but she always felt that every second in this place seemed to be dancing on the tip of a knife. "I will deal with the matter of the boundary." Ye Xiao finally broke his silence, his voice was as low as ice, and his eyes were locked on the Iron Teeth. "You'd better not play like flowers, otherwise I promise, you won't even regret it." Zia grinned, and her mouth full of gold teeth flashed cold light under the dim light, and she slammed her hand. Don't worry, my Zia's business is coming to speak faith. I don't care about the boundary matters, but if I leave this town, it has nothing to do with me." As he said, he pushed a small bag of dry rice and a bottle of medicine with blue light, and his eyes were still looking at Lin Ruoxi without aging. Lin Ruoxi felt a little disgusted, but she didn't say anything, but just silently picked up the dry mat and stuffed it into the broken pocket of her disciple's robe. Yi Jian took the medicine directly, checked the bottle body, and then put it away after confirming that there was no problem. He turned his head and looked at her, and said in a low voice, "Eat something and restore your energy. When it gets dark, we will leave." She chewed her head, although she didn't have much appetite in her stomach, but she still broke a small piece of dry rice and stuffed it into her mouth, chewing it on her skin. The dry rice was hard and dry, like gnawing on a stone, but she knew that the road ahead would only be more difficult. Now, without adding some energy, she might not be able to run. The basement calmed down for a while, only the low laughter from the iron teeth and the private words of several black marketers in the corner made the atmosphere even more depressed. After a few hours, it was getting dark and the deserted town was covered with a heavy night fog, and there was no light on the street. Yi Ban carried Lin Ruoxi out from the back door of the basement. The two of them stuck on the broken walls, carefully avoiding the potentially hidden eye lines. The boundary that Maya said does exist, and there is magic waves in the air around the town, like an invisible network that encircles the entire area. This boundary is not simple. Yi Jian stopped, squinted his eyes and looked forward, his palm squinted, and a shadow popped out from his fingertips. When he touched the boundary, a low buzzing sound came out, which was immediately opened. The congressional hand is at least arranged by a high-level wizard. We can't help but bend, and we will contact the alarm. What should I do? Lin Ruoxi asked in a low voice, with a hint of anxiety in her eyes. She knew that if she was trapped in this town, she would have been found by pursuers. Yi Jian was silent for a while, then took out the old sheepskin map from it, glanced at it in the faint moonlight, and said in a low voice, "The boundary cannot be completely free of traces, there are always weaknesses. We go to the west of the town, which is close to the magic wasteland. The magic interference is stronger, and the boundary should be looser." Lin Ruoxi was pointing her head, although she was still unsure, but she had no choice. The two of them groped along the edge of the town, and the night fog became more and more dense, and the range of the visual line was only a few steps away. The gravel under her feet kept making slight sounds, which made her feel shocked. She followed Yi Jian tightly, for fear that she would die if she accidentally did. After about half an hour walking, they finally arrived at a ruin west of town. This was once a magic workshop, but now there are only a pile of broken stone walls and scattered energy crystal fragments. The magic waves in the air were indeed more afflicting than other places. Lin Ruoxi could even feel a stinging pain coming from her skin. It was a sign of the exhaustion of magic, which made her unable to help but speed up her pace. "That's it." Yi Jian stopped, pressing his palm in the air, as if he was sensing something. After a while, he said in a low voice, "There is a gap in the boundary, but it is very small and can only be passed by one person. You go past first, and I will stop." Lin Ruoxi hesitated for a moment, and looked at Yi Jian's white face and blood that had not yet dried up completely, and felt a little overwhelmed. "You are injured, why don't you? Don't waste." Yi Jian cut her off, his voice cold and hard, "I can hold on, don't delay time." She bit her lip and said nothing more, carefully approaching the gap in the boundary in the direction Yi Bai pointed. The gap was indeed very small, and it could only accommodate a person's side, and there was a faint blue light around it, like a trap that was about to touch. She took a deep breath, suppressed the fear in her heart, and slapped her side. The magic waves of the junction wiped her skin, which hurt like a knife, but she gritted her teeth and ended up passing through the invisible barrier. Looking back, Yi Jian was still standing on the other side of the boundary, looking around with a sharp look, as if he was preparing for sudden situations at any time. She shouted in a low voice, "Come here." At night, I was about to move, but at this moment, a rapid sound of footsteps suddenly came from the night fog far away, followed by several red lights tearing the darkness and thrusting them directly. Yi Zhang's face darkened, his palm flipped, and the shadow instantly condensed into a black wall around him, forcing the first wave of attacks. "Run! Don't turn around!" he roared at Lin Ruoxi, with an unquestionable sense of pressure in the sound. Lin Ruoxi felt nervous. Although she wanted to stay for help, she knew that staying would only become a burden. She bit her teeth tightly and turned around and ran towards the magic wasteland. The soil under her feet was as soft as a swamp, and every step made her panting. The explosion sound behind her and the magic collision were not completely in her ears. She could even feel the ground trembling slightly, but she didn't dare to turn around and could only run forward with all her strength. I don't know how long she had run, but she finally stopped and gasped on a withered tree. Her legs were so sore that she was almost unable to stand firm, and her chest seemed to be about to explode, but she still turned around and looked away. In the night fog, Ye Ban's figure finally appeared. He walked a little stumbled, and there were a few more torn holes in his cloak. It seemed that the battle just now made his injury worse. Are you okay?" Lin Ruoxi gasped and asked, with a trembling sound. Ye Jian snorted coldly and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "I can't die. Those guys were left behind by me, but they will soon catch up. We have to go, and the Forbidden Curse Tower is no longer far." Lin Ruoxi was slightly lit up. Although she was exhausted, she knew that now was not the time to rest. The two continued to trek in the magic wasteland, and the map in Ye's hand became increasingly broken under the moonlight. The route marked on it was tortuous like a maze, making her feel unsure. But Ye Ban seemed to have prepared for everything, and although his pace was slow, he never hesitated. A few days later, they finally arrived at a deserted valley. Deep in the valley, a huge black tower stands in the mist. The tower body is filled with ancient runes, emitting a heart-pounding wave of magic. Lin Ruoxi stood in the edge of the island valley, looking far away at the tower, and her heartbeat couldn't help but speed up. The runes in the Sea of Brain began to rush, as if they had a certain kind of co-bearing with the runes on the tower, making her head burst. The Forbidden Curse Tower. Ye Jian's voice was low, and a complex emotion flashed in his eyes. "We are here." Lin Ruoxi bit her lips tightly, pressing the chaos in the sea of her brain, and asked in a low voice, "What should I do next? Go in directly?" The night bars slammed into the head, pointing to the energy crystal floating around the tower. "There is a protective barrier outside the tower, and if you go directly into it, you will be torn apart. We have to find the entrance, and there should be a hidden passage at the bottom of the tower, and your rune god can help us open it." She was a little nervous, although she knew that at this point, there was no way out. The two of them walked along the edge of the island valley and finally found a stone door covered by vines at the bottom of the tower. "Try it." Ye Jian stood behind her, his voice low. "Read the runes you see, and you should be able to unblock them." Lin Ruoxi took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and the runes in the Sea of Brain gradually became clear. She chanted those ancient verbs in a low voice, and each word seemed to be pulled from her throat, carrying an inexplicable force. With her voice, the runes on the stone door began to shine, and then a low sound of sludge appeared, opening slowly. Behind the door is a deep passage, with a decadent smell filled with the air, and more runes are engraved on the wall, making Lin Ruoxi's head pain even more intense. She gritted her teeth and walked into Yeba, her feet whirling back in the passage, like a drum beat on her heart. At the end of the passage is a huge circular hall. There are huge black crystals floating in the center of the hall. There are countless runes flowing on the surface of the crystals, as if they are alive and reorganized continuously. Lin Ruoxi realized at a glance that this was the core of the ultimate curse. The runes in her brain were completely consistent with those on the crystal stone, which made her almost unable to see directly. "It's it." Ye Jian's voice brought a suppressed excitement. "The ultimate mantra can revive the code of the world." Lin Ruoxi was shocked in her heart and turned to look at him. "Didn't you say you want to destroy it? Why do you hear it? You seem to want it." Ye Jian was silent for a while, his eyes darkened, and he finally opened his mouth. "I really want to destroy it, but before that, I need its power to complete my revenge. It will destroy everything for me, and I want them to pay for it." Lin Ruoxi felt nervous and took a step back. "Then have you been using me since the beginning?" Ye Jian didn't deny it, but just looked at her coldly. "You can say this. But I also saved you countless times. Now, help me get its power, and then we will destroy it together." She bit her teeth tightly, and her brain was in a mess. She knew Ye Xiao said it was right, and he had indeed saved her, but his purpose was never truly transparent. She looked down at her palm, and the runes in her brain seemed to be urging her to make a decision. Finally, she took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Okay, I'll help you. But if I find that you're cheating on me, I won't show mercy." Yi Fang's mouth slightly slapped, as if she was not surprised by her answer. He pointed his head and signaled her to approach the crystal, start, unravel the mantra and guide the power. Lin Ruoxi walked forward, touching the surface of the crystal with her palms lightly. A cold energy instantly swelled all over her body, and the runes in the brain began to rush, as if they were melting with the crystal. She chanted those vermicelli in a low voice, and each word made the air in the hall tremble, and the runes on the surface of the crystal gradually condensed into a beam of light, shooting towards the night sky. Yi Ban closed his eyes, and the shadows swelled around him, absorbing the power of the beam of light. His breath became stronger and stronger, but his face became whiter and whiter, as if he was suffering from great pain. Lin Ruoxi was worried when she watched the scene, but she didn't stop because she knew that once it was interrupted, the consequences might be worse. After a few minutes, the beam finally disappeared, and the night bar opened its eyes, with a red glow in its eyes. He said in a low voice, "It's over, it's destroyed now." Lin Ruoxi clicked his head and pressed his palm on the crystal again. The runes in the brain began to be reorganized and turned into a spell that broke the evil spirit. She recited the last few sounds in a low voice, and cracks suddenly appeared on the surface of the crystal. Then a huge sound came out, which eventually collapsed into countless pieces and scattered on the ground. The hall began to shake violently, and the runes on the wall were extinguished, as if the entire tower was collapsing. Yi Xiao grabbed her wrist and growled, "Let's go. This place is going to collapse." The two of them stumbled out of the passage and ran out of the stone gate. The entire forbidden spell tower emitted a deafening sound of birds, which collapsed into a pile of ruins. Lin Ruoxi sat on the ground, gasping heavily, and watching the dust in front of her dancing in the sky, feeling empty in her heart. She finally accomplished all of this, but why didn't she feel a little accomplished? Yi Xiao stood beside her, looking at the tower's dead body with a complex look, and said in a low voice, "The Congress has been finished, and they can no longer use the ultimate curse. But my affairs are not over yet." Lin Ruoxi turned her head and looked at him, with a burst of fatigue in her voice, "You still have to revenge, right?" Yi Xiao didn't answer, but just silenced and turned toward the other end of the Eye Valley. His back looked lonely in the morning fog, as if he had never planned to turn around. Lin Ruoxi looked at the direction he left and held the staff in his hand tightly. She knew that although the adventure was over, her journey was far away. The whereabouts of her father, the curse of the family, and the unsolved thoughts left by Yi Bai are all waiting for her to pursue her. She took a deep breath, stood up, and took the first step in the opposite direction.